Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Ag Forecast for South America, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, just like I did with my North American video, I'd like to talk first about ocean temperatures. We do, right now, when we look at some of our teleconnections, know these things. The MJO seems to be kind of getting very close to null space, so it seems to be collapsing. The second thing is the Antarctic Oscillation is actually being forecast to, it's got quite a bit of spread, but go towards zero. And I think the bigger background state is actually controlled by the changes we've seen in the La Nina and what it's doing to the trade winds and how that affects the monsoon. That's where I'm going with this, okay? So the animation, again, begins last July, and it just plays out here through late summer and then gets into October, November, December. Reaches probably a peak in mid-January, and then here's where we currently stand. Now, why I'm so concerned about this is I want to know what's going on over here. And I think what's happening here just off the west coast of South America is actually influencing the strength of the monsoon as it goes toward the kind of the end of the monsoon season. So with that as a backdrop, let's just rewind the clock back to this time period in mid-January. So January 11th through the 26th. Couple things to note. Both graphics are kind of showing us very similar things. This was at the peak of the La Nina, where we had these very strong trade winds, again, coming out of the east like this, that were over here near the Central Pacific toward Indonesia. We had strong westerlies here, and what was interesting is over South America, look at this. This would indicate stronger trade winds building in, and that's critical to the strength of the monsoon. It's the moisture transport. I'll kind of draw it on the map. It's very small on the bottom, but just it's doing this. Okay, that's just bringing that air around into that direction. And the map over there or the graph, on the right was illustrating a very similar point, but using the GFS data. Okay, so when we look at that time period, again, we're looking here from the 1st of January through the 15th of February. We can see total accumulated precip. Now, if you wouldn't mind, just kind of blur your eyes a bit, and I want you to see that. Do you see how in that area, and of course it extends over into this part of the Amazon too, but in that area we had quite a bit of precipitation. In fact, at times some very heavy precipitation in southern Brazil, and we were drier over here. Now, if you look to see what was going on with the wind field during that time, we had our stronger trade winds out here in the Pacific, and that's our La Nina. But you can see that almost the reflection of this right in through here, and the motion coming around just like that, which would indicate a stronger monsoon. Yes, it focused a lot of precipitation in a very few areas, but still, that's what we saw from January 1st through the 15th of February. And if we notice the precipitable water, so we're just looking about how much moisture was there. Okay, strong trade winds, subsidence, we were dry here, all the moisture was getting pushed over in Indonesia and Australia. But what about our monsoonal circulation in over here in South America? You can see the narrow corridor of the heavier precipitation in through here and the drier conditions we had in the east. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to understand what's changed since then. Because now what we've got, there's still a bit of a little burst here of some stronger trades. They've backed up a little bit. They're not being met with such fierce westerly bursts of wind on this side. But the change is here. And that changes over South America. We've lost the good easterly transport of moisture out of the tropics. It's now, these warmer colors represent more of a westerly component. So you say, well, what does that mean? Well, over the next 5 days, you can see, look at this. I'll just kind of highlight it right there. We still have decent moisture transport in this direction. Okay, but once we get out here to day 10, see how we're losing it? There's stronger winds here, and there's a bit more of an active flow pattern farther to the south. But what happened to those stronger trade winds in this area? Because what it ends up doing is this. Over the next 7 days, where we continue to see those stronger winds, we're seeing above average precipitation into Mato Grosso. We still have the frontal boundaries moving through northern Argentina as well, increasing precip there. But we're starting to see this dry signal show up here. And as those winds back off, I go out here from day 4 through day 10, and now the models are starting to paint over a broader sector here that's going to go dry. Now, if it's dry temporarily, this isn't that big of a consequence for this section of South America. It will be warm. You can see that the temperature anomalies here are suggesting upwards of a 3 to 7 degrees Celsius above average temperature trend, where the skies start to clear out here and things get drier. But the bigger concern is, look out into week 2. Into week 2, we see the focus is much farther to the north. Those weaker wind fields in here tend to slow down the monsoon, and we go over drier. And my concern moving forward is this what the Safrinha crop is going to endure, not just now at the end of March, but through April and May and June as it finishes. We continue to see the above average precip for parts of southern Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Argentina. That's been pretty consistent in the model, although the latest trends have been a bit drier in Buenos Aires and points a little bit farther to the west there. But take a look at this. This is now the Europeans' outlook for the month of April, and there's a lot of drier conditions in through here. And the GFS says the same thing. There's a GFS extended forecast. It runs out about 35 days. So I've taken you all the way here to the third week of April. And again, we see the model really picking up on a drier bias. And from there, just some other evidence of this. April, May, and June currently forecast by the European. It's not overly wet in this area. And the IRI multi-model group just released their forecast earlier this week. And they've also got pockets of drier conditions here. So again, this is more of a discussion about what this Safrinha crop is going to be seeing here. If those winds, if the models are wrong and the winds come back in, then the monsoon gets another kick and it goes back. And this brings in beneficial rains here. But I think moving forward, there seems to be a bit more of a risk in Brazil's Safrinha corn and cotton growing area of a drier bias. I think we should just keep a very close eye on this as we move forward. Hey, I appreciate your attention this week. Have a good weekend. We'll talk to you again on Monday. Thanks.